We continue with the broadcast this morning, and the chairperson of eThekwini Secure, Imtiaz Syed, standing by our weekly edition with eThekwini Secure. Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Imtiaz, this morning we'd like to talk about ratepayers associations, and
Hmm.
we know that many local municipalities, we've seen rates increases coming through as well, and I think we've covered a number of issues over a period of time. But the key issue is looking at ratepayers, in particular, looking at how far they've got, what sort of impact they can have, and also just, ratepayers associations, what actually constitutes, what are their mandates, what are some of the issues that people need to consider.
Absolutely. Now, firstly, let me start by saying we as ACC or eThekwini Secure in any manner or form welcome all ratepayers associations, and we fully understand that the climate currently speaks to us mobilizing in those formats in terms of civil society. However, we shouldn't go in like a grouping of bulls and try and bulldoze our way into municipalities saying that we're the ratepayers associations. We should firstly get our houses in order, and that's the most important thing. I mean, anyone can stand up tomorrow and say there's a grouping of three people and we represent ratepayers. In fact, who do you represent? Who has given you mandates? And where do those mandates come from? And then we come down to the issue of what is exactly your argument. If we're speaking about service delivery, it can't just be an ambiguous statement that we don't have service delivery. We got to speak to it in the format by which it comes, and what are we actually speaking to. So those are the questions that are being raised at the moment, and there's really uncertainty. I mean, in eThekwini, we've got some great movements that are happening, many different ideas being flouted and sent around, which is absolutely brilliant because engagement is important. But the direction and the path that needs to be set in stone as to what ratepayers do and how they go about doing their business is very, very important, because there's a risk of leading society astray, and that's the problem that we might be facing now.
Well, definitely. And also, I think when you look at the multitude of issues, the multitude of problems that communities are actually faced with on a day to day basis, it's actually important to understand, how far you go, who to talk to, what are your limits, and also
Correct.
just a good, thorough understanding on what you need to do or what you must do and how far you can go.
No, absolutely. As soon as these things start up, it's like having a bull in a china shop, and you just want to go on a rampage and speak about everything. I'm saying that ratepayers associations are very important tools, right? But we cannot just be all over the place. We need to be very clear and precise in the arguments that we are making. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. Within eThekwini municipality, we pay something like 300 million rand towards Umgeni water every single month, right? However, in the city, 60% of the population are non-rate paying citizens and get water for absolutely free, which constitutes about 46% of the water that is regarded as non-revenue water. Now, if an argument came from a ratepayers association as the collective that said that the municipality should not be billing the ratepayer for the entire 100%, but rather the 46% that the ratepayer in fact uses, that would reduce your water bill by, in fact, 46%. Now, let me give you the dimensions of this. 46% goes to non-revenue water. There's an 8% which is called water loss, meaning your burst pipes and all of that. And you've got another 46% which comes or is supplied to the ratepayer, who in fact are the only people that are billed at 73% towards the operational expenditure of the city. Now, that is an argument that can be won because ultimately we don't use the water we're paying for. It comes down to the same thing. Quantify electricity used by the ratepayers and charge us for that, instead of charging us for whatever we pay towards ESCOM. Now, this is where the discrepancies come in. Ratepayers go on a rampage of saying we don't have service delivery. What do you mean by don't have service delivery, and where do you not have service delivery? Make those arguments very precise. Let them be in different tiers, the bigger arguments, the smaller arguments. We haven't had infrastructure changes. But let's not be ambiguous in our statements, because when you go to the municipality, I can tell you right now, and you go to court, the municipality is going to drag this on forever. Then they're going to start coming and cutting services if you decide to go on a rates boycott, because ultimately in your rates billing and your consolidated bill, let me be clear again, consolidated billing, the first line item is rates. How do you now quantify to say I'm paying for my electricity and water, but I'm not going to pay my rates because I'm on boycott? Will the Ratepayers Association then represent you on those grounds to say we're not paying rates, it's sitting in a different account, but we are going to pay for services? When in fact it's those services that are exorbitant, and the rates in fact is really not too much of a muchness, except for the fact that we are being billed in fact double for water and double for electricity.
Yes, but it is clear that there are laws actually that govern ratepayers, and what you are saying is, you've cited the example of a rates boycott, and
Hmm,
just to understand what some of the legal implications would be. So it's important, and again, the point that you made right at the beginning, in terms of the mandate, ratepayers need to understand, or ratepayers organizations, associations need to have a thorough understanding of legally, how far they can go, how far they
correct.
can actually push their local municipalities, and when they need to take a step back.
Absolutely. I think there are some many legal minds out there, and I think they can discuss this to its completeness, right? But let's be realistic about the arguments here. There is a rates bylaw, and in terms of the law, every single property that exists within municipalities need to pay rates. That is what it's saying. But when we look at electricity, water, sanitation, sewage, DSW, all of these services, the municipality in fact acts as a service provider, and those units and entities, for the lack of a better word, are MOEs, which are municipal owned enterprises. Now, if we take on as ratepayers, and the reason I say the ratepayers need to make this argument is because the only people that can pay those services are in fact ratepayers, because that's the only billing system that exists. And the municipality was very, very operationally intuitive many years ago, and was in 2007 when they devised the plan of making a consolidated bill. Previously, we used to get a rates bill separately and electricity and utilities separately. Currently, it's all consolidated, and that was very divisive because if you took the electricity and water and put it in with rates, then the rates bylaw falls to the entire bill. And this is the arguments ratepayers need to take forward to say that firstly, separate our rates, tell us and quantify for us in terms of our rates, what is it that we are supposed to be getting in service delivery? And then let us talk to electricity. If we don't have electricity services, I mean, currently right now, everyone is getting load shedding, but your electricity bill remains the same. Where are the ratepayers talking about those things? When we're talking about water, we have water cuts for days, and when the water gets turned back on, your meter runs for hours on end, just running air through the system, but there's no ratepayers speaking about these things. So we should start targeting those separate entities of municipality and speaking to them outside of the oneness that the municipality seems to want us to believe. These are all separate organizations within the municipality, and we need to target those bills separately. So I think firmly our ratepayers need to move very quickly in terms of saying that we no longer want consolidated bills. We want our bills separated. We want electricity charges to be charged separately. We want water to be charged separately. So when we go, or for example, if you want to go on a rates boycott and you've got merit in your argument, then you go down that path, and then you get legal emphasis on that to say we're boycotting rates because we've got potholes all over our area and we can't even get into our area. Fair argument, take it to court and speak to that. But when it comes to electricity, and you've got 600 informal settlements within your municipality that are utilizing some 50% of your electricity and water, how do you make that argument as a ratepayer speaking about rates? Because the informal sector does not pay rates. You cannot speak on that behalf. So speak on electricity, speak on water, and speak on it separately.
Well, Imtiaz, we're going to have to leave it at that. As always, very interesting, and a lot of food for thought once again
Mm.
for us as communities and ratepayers. We thank you, as always, for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Imtiaz Syed, Chairperson of the of eThekwini Secure, and also with the Active Citizens Coalition, with us this morning. We are headed to 9:42, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Jenny Duprier, owner and principal at the Emergence Group.